Yeah, MedDecode. Welcome to MedDecode.
And welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are unpacking a huge stack of research to give you that ultimate shortcut to, well, really understanding a topic.
And today's topic is, I think, the biggest question out there about these new super effective anti-obesity medications. We all know they work. Drugs like Tirzepatide, they help people lose a serious amount of weight and fast.
They've been completely revolutionary. But, the question that always comes up, the one that really defines long-term success, is this. Once I hit my goal weight, can I stop? Can I just stop taking the pills and keep the weight off?
That is the million-dollar question. It's the real test,
that's right.
So what's our mission for this deep dive?
Our mission is to break down the post hoc analysis from a major clinical trial, SURMOUNT-2-4. And this study is so important because it gives us this really detailed look at what happened when people who had successfully lost weight on Tirzepatide for 36 weeks just stopped.
They just cut it off.
Abruptly. And the study tracked what it calls the metabolic cost of doing that over the next year. And I'll just say, the insights are pretty sobering.
Okay, let's get into it. Before we even touch the stats on weight regain, I think we have to frame this correctly. Clinicians now see obesity not as, a lack of willpower, but as a chronic disease.
Exactly. And that frame is absolutely critical to understanding these results. When you're treating a chronic disease, you're managing an underlying biological state.
Right. It's like high blood pressure. If you're on medication and your blood pressure is suddenly perfect, you don't just stop taking the pills.
Of course not.
You keep taking them to maintain that good reading.
It's the exact same logic. But the biology here is so fascinating. Tirzepatide isn't just, say, a diet pill. It's actively changing your core biological drives. It's turning down the volume on your hunger signals. It's shifting your body's natural set point.
So when you take the drug away?
That biological drive, it's like a powerful spring that's been held down. You let it go, and it wants to snap right back to where it was before. And that happens almost immediately.
So we're not talking about people just getting lazy again. We're talking about their own physiology reasserting itself in a powerful way.
That's the absolute key. And it's why these drugs are intended as long-term weight management tools, not just short-term weight loss tools. You need that sustained intervention to keep those cardiometabolic benefits.
Okay, so let's get to the SURMOUNT-4 results. You have this group of successful people, and then half of them are switched to a placebo. What actually happened over the next year? They were still following the diet and exercise plan.
Right. They were still in the trial, still doing everything they were told. But the results were, well, they were dramatic. That biological drive to regain weight was just incredibly strong.
How strong?
So despite the diet and exercise, an astonishing 82.5% of the people who stopped the drug regained 25% or more of the weight they had lost.
Wow. So more than 4 out of 5 people saw at least a quarter of all their hard work just vanish within a year.
It vanished. And that really makes the case for long-term treatment. But for many, it was far worse than just 25%. About half the group regained 50% or more.
Half. So they were halfway back to where they started.
Halfway back to square one. And maybe the most shocking number, about 1 in 4 people regained 75% or more. They were almost back to their original starting weight inside of a single year.
And here's the crucial part. Was this just, an aesthetic issue? Did they just need to buy bigger clothes again? Or did the actual health benefits disappear too?
It was a total metabolic retreat. The data showed this really clear, direct link. The more weight you regained, the faster and more completely all those great health improvements you made just evaporated.
So the health wins were tied directly to keeping the weight off?
Completely. And what the researchers found was a specific tipping point, a kind of clinical alarm bell.
And that's the 25% mark you mentioned earlier.
That's the one. They basically saw that once you cross that 25% weight regain threshold, things start to go downhill metabolically and fast.
Okay, so let's talk about the exceptions. The small group, about 17.5%, who managed to stay under that line, the maintainers, did they keep their benefits?
For the most part, yes. This small group, they largely preserved the big improvements they'd made in things like waist circumference, non-HDL cholesterol, fasting insulin. They held on to their wins.
So that 25% line is kind of like a cliff edge. If you can stay back from it, you're mostly okay. But once you go over, the health costs become really obvious.
That's a perfect way to put it.
Right.
Once you cross that line, the reversal of benefits became statistically and clinically undeniable. It suggests that once a certain amount of fat mass comes back, the metabolic pathways that the drug was helping just start to fail again.
Okay, let's get into the specifics now because the numbers are what really make this stick. For the groups that regained the most weight, what were the most tangible, quantifiable metrics that just snapped back?
Let's start with the one you can see. Central obesity. We're
Yeah.
talking waist circumference. This is the bad stuff, the visceral fat around your organs.
Right.
The group that regained the most, 75% or more, their waist circumference, grew by an average of 14.7 centimeters in that 1 year.
14.7 centimeters. That's over 5.5 inches back on their waistline. That's not just a minor change. That is a huge return of cardiometabolic risk.
A massive return. And the next one is systolic blood pressure, or SBP. That's the top number on your reading.
The one they worry about for stroke risk.
Exactly. The highest regain group saw their SBP jump by an average of 10.4 millimeter Hg.
That is not a small number. A 10-point jump can take someone from a healthy range right back into a hypertension diagnosis.
It is a huge clinical shift. And what's really interesting here is that SBP went up across all the regain groups, even the ones who only regained a tiny bit of weight.
So that suggests the drug itself might have a direct blood pressure lowering effect that has nothing to do with the weight loss.
It really does. Yeah. It hints that the drug is doing more than one thing at once. And when you take it away, you lose that cardiovascular stability almost immediately, no matter how much you exercise.
That's a critical point. What else?
We also saw a really fast reversal in blood sugar control, things like HbA1c and fasting glucose. And this happened very, very early after they stopped the drug.
Why so quickly?
Well, because these GLP-1 agonists have a direct, immediate effect on how your body handles sugar and insulin. The second the drug is out of your system, those benefits are just gone. And then finally, the bad lipids like triglycerides and non-HDL cholesterol, they got worse too, especially in the groups that regain 50% or more.
So it's a pretty consistent story. The weight comes back and it brings all the health problems right back with it.
Right.
But I think I remember seeing one weird exception in the data. One thing that didn't follow the pattern.
You're right. There's one fascinating twist in all this, and it has to do with high-density lipoprotein cholesterol, or HDLC.
The good cholesterol.
The good cholesterol, exactly. While everything else was getting worse, waist size, blood pressure, blood sugar, HDLC actually went up.
Yeah.
And it was a statistically significant increase.
Hold on. A person is gaining unhealthy weight back. All their risk factors are going in the wrong direction, but their good cholesterol is getting better. That makes no sense.
It's totally counterintuitive. But what's really interesting is that we've actually seen this pattern before. During the initial weight loss phase on Tirzepatide, HDLC, on average, went down a little bit.
Okay.
Then, when they stopped the drug and regained the weight, it went up. And this mirrors what's been seen in some older studies on just diet-induced weight regain.
So why does it happen?
We don't fully know. It's really complex. It might be related to how enzymes that move cholesterol around are changing, or maybe shifts in how the body is storing fat again. But the researchers are very clear. The mechanism is not understood, and it needs a lot more investigation. It's the one clear anomaly in the data.
So wrapping this all up, what's the big picture takeaway? For patients, for doctors?
The fundamental takeaway has to be that this is long-term chronic disease management. For the people who regained 75% or more of their weight, almost all of their cardiometabolic numbers were right back where they started before they ever took the drug. All that progress was lost in a year.
So clinicians really have to set expectations up front. This isn't a quick fix. If you want to keep the health benefits, the data says you have to keep the treatment going.
Absolutely. And the conversation has to be about long-term risk management. Staying on this one medication might prevent the need for 3 or 4 other medications down the road. One for diabetes, one for blood pressure, one for cholesterol.
Right, it's preventative. So we know abruptly stopping is not a good idea. What don't we know yet? What are the biggest gaps?
Well, the first big one is that this study only looked at abrupt cessation. We have almost no data on other ways to stop, like gradually tapering the dose over a few months. Maybe a slower off-ramp would help the body adjust.
That seems like a really important next step, especially for that 17.5% who are pretty successful at maintaining.
Exactly. And that leads to the second and maybe most exciting question for future research. We need to really understand that minority group, that roughly 17.5%, that did manage to keep most of the weight off.
What made them special?
Was it just that they were incredibly disciplined with their lifestyle? Or is there something biologically different about them? Different gut hormones, a different baseline metabolism, maybe genetic markers that protect them from that snapback effect.
If we could figure that out.
If we could figure out why they succeeded, that could give us a way to identify who might be able to safely stop these drugs someday without losing all the benefits.
It's just so striking how the body fights to get back to that set point. Stop medication and the disease just reasserts itself.
It's the power of homeostasis. It wants to return to what it knows.
So, here's a final thought for you to chew on. We know stopping tirzepatide cold turkey is a recipe for losing your health gains. But what is truly different about that small group of successful maintainers? If it's not just willpower, could there be a biological key inside them that we could one day use to help everyone else safely transition off these powerful long-term medications?
That is a critical question, one for future deep dives for sure.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.
And that's a wrap on this episode of MedDecode. I really appreciate you joining me today. If something we talked about sparked your interest, or if there's a medical term that's been bugging you, let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this, be a pal and share it with a friend. We'll catch you on the next one.